Bitcoin should teach us to leave the old way of thinking, right? Because we have done this since humans were around, right? We thought about resources. I have more than you. If I want your resources, I'm coming and stealing them from you, or maybe fighting you in a war, killing you. It's all about that, right? And I think Bitcoin is the opposite of that. But Bitcoin tell us that we should work together, we should cooperate, we should share, And then also some people that are, from a more, let's say, if you want to talk about politics, right wing kind of thinking. If you talk about sharing, they don't like. But it goes beyond that, because it's a type of sharing where it's not sharing where you give away something for free, because being part of a network, it requires an investment, it requires commitment, it requires you to be stay with these through the ups and downs, changing your mind, growing, thinking. It's participating. It's like building something together, where we are building this city that follows power law, and everybody's is like a cathedral, right? When in the old time, in ancient time, we did these beautiful masterpieces, because the entire town, everybody was coming. There were some people that had more skills, they could do sculpture and things like that. Other people could simply bring bricks to the to the masons that were putting them together, the cathedral. Everybody was contributing. Some people were making bread. When a cathedral was built, the entire city was coming together, through many different contributions, by paying some, donations, by putting some of their time, by doing something. And they created these beautiful masterpieces. Same thing, Bitcoin has to do with people coming together and participating and contributing different things. So this is why I really hate it. It's one of these things where I was more aggressive in the beginning when I came to, because I have been working for 12 years, but I started to get some fame in the last year or so, because, there was a famous economics, let's say like this, YouTuber that featured me. His name is Andre Jik. This is how everybody started to know me, because of his video. This is how he brought me to, even if it is the model itself is 6 years old, and I've been working on other models and other way of understanding power laws in general since 12 years. Like basically 1 year ago, when around February, March, I started to express these ideas, and I thought that people will love them, that a lot of people will support it, because it was a new way of thinking about Bitcoin, not just with power law, this idea of scarcity, etc. There's another thing that I'm kind of a contrarian, like almost. I saw some people talking about this, but maybe there is one article about how Bitcoin is actually abundant, but even that article didn't catch the entire breadth of ideas, right? To me, Bitcoin is abundant. It's not scarce at all. It's finite and abundant at the same time. And when I started to express these ideas, I saw so much negativity. Many people block me. They started to insult me. They started to attack me. They started to say all kinds of things. I think it's one of these things that people are so attached to it, because you see, when we have difficult things like Bitcoin, or complex things, because Bitcoin is simple and difficult at the same time, right? It's full of incredible contradictions, beautiful contradictions, like all the amazing things. People need some framework, right? They need some kind of tool to open the doors, right? And for many people, this idea of scarcity, because it's so ancestral, we lived in a scarce world for a long, long time. We are going towards a world of abundance, where we will have almost everything available with AI, maybe nanotechnology. There are all these new technology that are bringing more and more abundance. Many times we create fake scarcity. This is why I don't like the idea that Bitcoin is a manufactured scarcity, because things like diamonds are that, right? People create a sense of they stop actually production of diamonds, but diamonds will be much cheaper if they allowed all the diamonds that are created all the time, are digged all the time, to be being distributed. But you can make artificial diamonds that are almost indistinguishable from the natural ones. But even that is carb, because Otherwise, the price will go to nothing. And so it's an artificial scarcity, right? That gives value to something. I don't think Bitcoin needs to be associated with that, to some kind of artificial scarcity. It's ridiculous. It's the other way around. Is the fact that Bitcoin actually has inherent value. And I'm writing an entire article about where the value of Bitcoin is. But just to give you an idea, what we just described, that ledger is like one of the most important invention of mankind. It's not that ledgers were not invented before, but a ledger that is electronic, that is not falsifiable, that is that you cannot play with it, that is eternal, that is in particular decentralized, that it doesn't depend on somebody keeping track. It does it. Everything is, from a financial point of view, is almost like the holy grail. Like, I don't understand when people say it's not valuable. It's more valuable than gold. It's more valuable because everything else, gold, it's an approximation. It's an analog approximation to what Bitcoin does. So it's not the other way around. It's not that Bitcoin is the digital gold. Is that gold is the analog Bitcoin. It's trying to do in a bad way what Bitcoin is doing right now. And that is actually, maybe I should use that slogan and diffuse it, right? It's the other way around. It's actually gold. It's a bad approximation of what the ideal system is in terms of exchange, in terms of creating some kind of reference value for mankind. And Bitcoin does it perfectly, and it's the solution. You don't even need something better because Bitcoin does it as good as possible. You could argue something about how fast the transactions are, but we are solving that too with layer 2, etc. So that will be solved eventually too. There is not a problem. But in terms of settling transactions, in making them finite, making final, and making them decentralized and recorded forever, Bitcoin does it perfectly, and it solves this problem once and forever. And everything else, from shells to gold or whatever, has been an approximation of what Bitcoin does. So just that gives an enormous practical value to Bitcoin that very few people even recognize. But there are many others. The fact that it is a network, there are a lot of things that all work together that makes Bitcoin this valuable. In fact, is undervalued. Should be valuable as the entire wealth of the world that eventually will. This is where Bitcoin is going. It's undervalued by a factor of few hundred. We are still have 100 pair valuation ahead of us. So these are ideas that I want to people start to think, little by little. I know that the scarcity idea is something that many people use as a key to comprehend what Bitcoin is, but it's the wrong concept. The finite amount is important also because it avoids devaluation, right? It avoids some third party coming in, like a government, and say, "Oh, I'm going to make more Bitcoin," and then, it's not just making more Bitcoin that is the problem. The problem when they print is that they give all this money to only few people, because if it was only a matter of adding a zero, right? Imagine the same. Oh, let's add a zero to everything. Nothing will change. Absolutely nothing will change, right? Now it takes $10 to buy what you were buying with $1, but your pay also goes up by the same amount, right? Your stipend goes up by the same amount, right? You add a zero to everything, including paying. It will not change anything. The problem with printing is that they print and then they give to only few people, like the banks, for example, right? Then the banks give it to some, special interest, and it's all about redistributing the resources in a very client type of way, right? It's based politicized way. That is the problem, and everybody else loses, right? All of us lose because of that. They gain and everybody loses. That is where the problem of printing is. It's not by simply inflating equally everything, because if you add only a zero, nothing changes, right? It's exactly the same thing as before. That is not the problem, and so the problem is avoiding a third party to manipulate the monetary system, and the fact that it's finite avoids that, because at a certain point, Satoshi was even considering allowing some change over time in one early version by committee. Like a committee comes together and say, can we have 1,000 more Bitcoin, right, or 10,000 more Bitcoin, and he said, that will create also some problems, because if a committee comes together, we have to debate and discuss, and then it's arbitrary. Let's make it fixed. And actually, weirdly enough, nature exactly uses the same way to create everything. It just say, I'm going to create this fixed quantity of something, and when I create something, I just make it one positive, one negative, and I keep the same amount, right? And from the start. And this is exactly how Bitcoin works, by redistributing everything. Now, how an entire economy can work with that when once is used as the monetary system is something that I want to think about, but I still cannot completely figure it out. It's going to be interesting, because even past experiences, right? The closest thing one who could try to see, okay, how did it work when nations use the gold as the monetary standard, right? And so, in a certain sense, we were coming close to that, but it's not quite, because, like I say, it's an approximation to that.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.